Self.com here. This is the fourth time in a row that I have tried to record this video. I've had my camera shut off twice in the middle of recording, and then I switched to a phone of mine, and my phone shut off in the middle of recording, so I'm going to try to make this one, hopefully this one works for us. Anyways, so a few months ago I recorded a video. It was called The Fine Line Between Good Enough and Great, and in this video I talked about how I have this tendency to always want everything that I do, every project, whether it's graphic design, web design, or whether I'm drawing in a notebook, or pretty much every single thing I do in life, I want to do it to the best of not just my ability, but I want it to be outstanding. I want it to be perfect. It's tendency towards perfectionism, which is a problem for a lot of people, I would say. And so basically in the video, I talked about how I would be doing whatever project I was doing, and I would say at one point it is good enough, and then I would stop striving for it to be better, whatever. And so good enough being the minimum level of quality that is required for it to be passable. It's passable, like I was getting a C on that particular project rather than being an A student or whatever whatever kind of analogy you want to put on it. But so I was saying the phrase good enough like entirely too often, or that's what I felt like. And instead I wanted my work to be great. So I decided, because I did a lot of research about, how we talk to ourselves. I know we tell ourselves this story, we say certain things to ourselves, we tell ourselves that, we're not good enough, or we are good enough, or whatever particular story you have for your life and yourself, and your beliefs about whatever world you're in. So basically I wanted to remove the phrase good enough from my vocabulary, because I felt that it might have been detracting from becoming better at something. Like if I'm putting out work that I'm saying is good enough every single time, then good enough, aka the minimum level of quality, is going to become the norm for me, and that's what I was afraid of. So I decided to break the habit of saying good enough, and try to achieve saying, oh, that's awesome, when I'm finishing a project, rather than just good enough. And so I did. I worked on it after I made the video, and I actually literally stopped saying good enough about my projects. But then about a few weeks later, I realized that I wasn't saying good enough, but I had a new problem. I would spend a lot more time, probably up to 2 hours on, say, like a 10 or 15 minute task, like say edit one photo. I can do a photo pretty quickly, but I cannot do a photo pretty quickly when I have a certain level of a certain standard for the quality that I want that photo to be. And of course, I'm always going to be a little bit disappointed if I don't reach that level, but at the same time, I'm really disappointed if I'm just stuck on something so small, especially in the big picture of things. It's like right now I'm in the middle of a graphic design project where I'm editing wedding photos. So they have to be nice, and there's like 80 photos that I got to edit. And so I found myself several days in a row working on a single photo. Not like I wasn't working on that same photo several days in a row, but I would work on one single photo for up to like 2 or 3 hours on some of them. I mean, of course, there was I was doing some things in between, but I was working entirely too long on one photo. Like, there's no way I could sustain that level of quality through this entire project, because you think about it, it's like, okay, let's just say I was spending an hour on a photo, which, I mean, I literally was spending 2 or 3 hours on a single photo at times. But no, let's just say I spent an hour on every single photo. So that's, that's 80 photos, that's 80 hours, that's three and a third days, with absolutely no breaks, no leaving the computer, working solidly for 3 days and 8 hours, just a solid chunk of time, like if I didn't sleep or eat or do anything else. And so I'm like, okay, and working that long on the project, it actually, the payment is not worth as much. It's like, if I was going by an hourly rate, that would be great, I'm sure, but you know, going for a flat fee like I'm doing, it causes a problem. You know, it reduces my wages per hour to a very, very, very low level, and it wasn't worth it to me, basically. And especially the ROI on it. You know, it's like I'm spending this much longer on the photo, and it's marginally better. You know, it's not outstanding still. It's just it's good. Like, I mean, I can look at it and it doesn't look fake. And I mean, not that all the photos are going to look fake if I don't strive for that, but I'm just saying. So, spending entirely too long on these photos, and you know, I thought about the concept of perfectionism. I realized that, you know, I'm striving for great. I don't want to say good enough. So whenever it's good enough, you know, even if it's good enough, you know, it's plenty good. I would still be trying to fix them. I would try to bring it to that next level of good, and it was really starting to bog down on everything I was doing, like not just the photo project, but, you know, then I had someone contact me for some web design. So then I got to work on his project and make it great, not just good enough, as well as these 80 photos. And he wanted his website done by a certain day, but the graphic design project, you know, it was passed on to me because the person who hired me couldn't do it as quickly as, you know, they wanted it done. And so I had positioned myself as this really good Photoshop guy, which, you know, I'm really good at Photoshop, but, you know, I had also, like, probably implied in conversation that, oh yeah, I can get it done, you know, quickly. You know, like, it's worth it to hire me because, you know, you're going to be saving time and you're going to get it done quicker. And like, working at the pace I was working, you know, trying to make them as good as they were, was slowing me down. And great to me would be, you know, like me striving for perfection, like I was saying. And perfect has a lot of different elements to it. I mean, not only is perfect in a very subjective thing, like, I mean, depending on what you're describing, but, you know, a perfect photo, for example, or a perfect painting, or a perfect song, or whatever, you know, I mean, it's gonna really come up to the individual. And so me striving for perfect, you know, I mean, even if I did achieve that level, which is literally impossible to do, like on an objective level, like, I mean, I couldn't make it perfect for every single person in the world. So why strive for that, you know, for one? And then two, I realized that, you know, if I'm striving for perfection, then I can't take that long to do it, especially because I implied that I would get it done quickly. So by going so slow on it, even though I'm making the quality of it better, I'm lowering my own quality. I'm lowering my reputation by taking so long on it, you know. And when stuff starts to build up like that, then, you know, it starts getting a little overwhelming, especially because I'm like, oh yeah, I have 80 photos and 3 websites to make, and they all have to be perfect. Like, they all have to be great, you know. And so I realized that, you know, I was imposing this, like, limitation on myself, and I was stressing myself out over something that cannot be achieved. And you know, it was starting to, like, take a toll. You know, it was making me like, stress out all the time. You know, I found myself, like, just like, I would look at the clock or something, and I'd see that, you know, it was like starting to get late. You know, the sun's starting to go down in the middle of the day, and I'm like, fuck, you know, like cussing and stuff like that, because I'm, like, pissed off at myself for not getting more work done that day. You know, for working on a single photo for 2 hours. You know, that's way too long. You know, I mean, it'd be one thing if I was printing millions of t-shirts, you know, and sending them all over the globe and stuff like that. I don't want to associate my name with something that's subpar. But, you know, photos are difficult. I mean, they're not as easy to edit as, you know, graphics. Like, graphics are one thing, but, you know, photo editing, that's like you're dealing with real objects and real people and real skin tones and real shadows and light, and there's a lot that comes into play in that. And so I found that, you know, I was trying to put stuff out on such a level that, you know, I couldn't maintain that level of quality. And that's besides the point. You know, I got another story. Okay, so I used to be really into graffiti, and you know, I mean, I used to actually go out and paint on walls and all that stuff. I actually got arrested for that at one point, but, you know, I actually talked about that in a different video. Don't remember the name of it, but anyways, so I used to draw a lot, you know, in my notebook. I had a couple notebooks that were specifically for drawing, and, you know, I'd practice my designs, whatever, before I went out and caused trouble. And I found that my biggest enemy in terms of drawing was having an eraser, using a pencil with an eraser. And it's because I'd be drawing and I'd write the first letter down, or I'd start to make the first letter. Sometimes I wouldn't even get through the first letter and I would notice a mistake that I had made, like even if it was small, like maybe I just went off the angle that I wanted just slightly, instead of 90 degrees I was doing 85 degrees, or whatever, I mean, there was a number of things, like sometimes they were worse than others. But so before I had a macro picture, before I had the whole picture down with its flaws, I was trying to fix the individual parts before the whole thing was a whole. And so when I started adding more to it, when I actually got through this problem of fixing this one tiny little part that I thought didn't look right, I would go on to the next letter, and as soon as I added the next letter, it changes the dimension and it changes the perspective of the whole image. It changes the way that the lines interact with each other. And so as soon as I added the second letter, it could be the perfect letter, and it would still throw off all the fixes that I had made. And so I'd go back and I'd try to edit it again. I'd erase some stuff, and the more I erased, the more the paper got all smudged up. And sometimes I'd even actually literally tear through the paper from the friction of the eraser because I would be erasing so much. And so at some point I decided that that was not the way to go, and I decided I'm going to learn how to draw in just pen, because if I draw in just pen, there's no option for me to erase it. And it actually was probably the best thing I could have done, because I started drawing in just pen, and maybe it would look a little sketched, like I'd be drawing some light lines and making sure that I was getting the right angles, and drawing lightly the first time, but I would not erase anything. And so if the light line was not the exact line I wanted, then I'd correct, and then I'd draw the full line. And so over time I started building up the skill of just drawing, like just pen on paper and writing and not sketching. And I started getting really good at it, and I started putting out the same quality of work writing in pen as I did in pencil. And so the whole moral of this story is that your work is not going to be perfect, and you don't want to be the best person who can modify. You don't want to be the person who can point out the flaws in his own work and spends days or weeks or hours or an extended period of time trying to fix it. You want to be the person who can put something together and it to be good on the first try. Because I mean, just in doing that, you put yourself on a new level of, like, a new tier of whatever your craft is. You make it look effortless. You know what I mean? And so that's really the kind of person I want to be. I don't want to be the person who's constantly doubting whether or not his work is good enough. I want to be the person who does work, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but the majority of it is good, and it's not something that takes up all my time and stresses me out. And that's what it's been doing. So anyways, I know a lot of you guys probably have the same problem with the whole perfectionism. If you do, shoot me a comment below, tell me this is a great tip, or if you guys have any tips, I'd love to hear them. But also, oh yeah, I wanted to mention that making mistakes is part of succeeding. Because you have to know what you did wrong in order to correct your behavior and to start doing things right. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. I figured out that I could actually be a lot more efficient in this whole photo editing process if I went through these photos rapid fire and just bam, 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 just do several of them and then shoot them over to the person who hired me. And then if they see something wrong with it, then they can get back to me and tell me this needs to be changed a little bit, or this needs to be fixed a little bit, or whatever the fix is that I need to do. And then I'm not spending my time searching out my own errors, because I'm gonna try to do it right the first time, obviously, but I'm not spending time looking through on a magnified level of these photos, looking for the inconsistencies with what it would look like in real life, you know, because some of them are kind of drastic. And I think that it would be a lot. I mean, because I'm not the end user, or the person viewing these photos in the long run. You know, it's going to be the people who actually have the photos, the people the photos are of, and I mean, as long as they're happy, then I should be happy, of course, you know. But I mean, I have a very high standard for myself, and it can cause me problems. So, you know, I just wanted to, you know, public service announcement, kind of whatever thing, and let you guys know that, you know, don't hold yourself to a very high standard, you know, but don't allow your high standards to hold you back from actually reaching any level of success, because it can happen. I know it can happen. I've been there. I continue to be there, and I'm working on a solution for it, which I'm gonna make another video about when I come up with one, hopefully soon, because I don't know. It's been something that's bugged me for a really long time. You know, if something I put out is not as good as I think it could be, then it actually literally stresses me out. It causes me anxiety, because I feel like, you know, I don't want to be judged by the stuff that I do that is not to the best of my ability. You know, instead I'd rather learn from every single thing that I do and continue to get better at doing it right the first time, rather than, you know, screwing it up and then fixing it a little bit and then trying to fix it and then screwing it up more, and then, you know, because it's a never-ending process. So don't do it. You know, if you guys like this video, you know, please subscribe by clicking the button below. Like I said, I'm going to put out that other video on the solution or whatever when I come up with it. And I'm going to put out a lot more other videos. I've been watching a lot of stuff that I used to watch. You know, I'm getting back into Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins, obviously. But I've been watching some new people. Like, for example, there's this lady named Olivia Fox something. Her last name starts with a C. But she talks about charisma, and she goes to Stanford and Harvard. And she doesn't talk about it from the perspective that I normally see it. Which most of the time when I hear about charisma, people are talking about, you know, who is charismatic, and they try to teach you how to be charismatic. But, you know, I mean, you can only teach that to a certain extent, you know, like, and it depends on the type of person you're trying to teach as well, because I know, me personally, I like knowing the exact facts, like knowing exactly what causes it. And so the scientific perspective, you know, coming from like a psychologist, I think she's a psychologist, it's really cool. I don't know, it's really cool. Anyways, so I'm gonna talk a lot more about charisma in the future here, and I got some other things in the works. I got several ideas written down on a piece of paper around here somewhere, of video ideas. So new videos coming out soon. Subscribe, you know, don't miss them. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned something. If you did, please comment below. You know, if you got something to teach me, please comment below. If you want to tell me that I suck, whatever, comment below. I mean, I'll probably talk shit back to you, but, you know, it's all in good fun. Anyways, so hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you later.